lady is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She comes with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. How you guys doing? Hope you're having a great night. Thank you so much to all of you for being here tonight. There's quite a few of you already coming in, and that's always exciting. It's true love this one. Very cool. All right, just checking out the chat, looking at all the chatters that are coming in and starting with their good evenings. Hello, everybody. Thank you all for coming in, and thank you to all of you who will be watching this in the future at some point, hopefully. Hope you guys are having a great night. It is Thursday night. Special thank you again to Robin Moonshadow for appearing last night with Don and I. We had a great discussion about proto-pygmies and little people, meaning gnomes, pukwudgies, duendes, and the whole laundry basket of things that we covered last night. It was very cool and a very good discussion, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, those of you that checked it out. And if you didn't check it out, please do. That means a lot for all of you guys to come in and watch the streams. So I appreciate that a bunch. Tomorrow night, I got to quit saying, I hear that in myself too. It's like, God. Tomorrow night, we are welcoming Sarah Bignell to the show, and she is the host and creator of Yowie Central, and she's also involved with the Australian Yowie Research Group. So, that'll be awesome. I'm really excited to have her on. And then next week, the following Friday, we're going to be welcoming Gary Lynn, who is one of the Australian Yowie researcher investigators. He goes out and does field research with that group, and it's really incredible stuff that they've found lately. And if you want to get a sneak peek at what they talk about or what they've discovered, you can certainly check out Bigfoot Odyssey. God, I don't know why. I was just lost on that name for a second, and it's only because of my own personal dyslexia, just so you guys know. But Bigfoot Odyssey had a great... Oh, thank you, Kirsten. Lots of love. I appreciate it. Bigfoot Odyssey did an interview with both Gary and another gentleman that was along on that journey, and he had recorded some really incredible thermal footage. I think that's fantastic stuff, and we're going to be talking to Gary about that, but this is next Friday. But tomorrow, Sarah's on, and Sarah's going to bring along with her a few pretty incredible stories that she's covered on her show, and I'm really excited about that because I tell you what, there's nothing, as any of you know that have been around for a while, there's nothing that excites me more than to hear actual firsthand encounters from people that have experienced things, because they are the ones that live through what this is. It's one thing to open an article and discuss phenomena, discuss a recounting of someone's tale, but it's a whole nother thing to be able to listen to the stories firsthand and how the person delivers them, the emotion in their voice, and so many other things that I think really make you a believer, from some of the stories. And take, for instance, Sasquatch Chronicles. Obviously, everybody knows that show. And if you don't, you've been living in a cave or something. But check out, I don't know what episode it is, but it's this lady from England. And she has such emotion in her voice as she's recounting this experience. And it really makes your heart just go out to her like, oh my God, because you can hear how powerful that experience was. And that's why I love firsthand accounts. is when people relive them with that passion and with that fear just coming through, and that intense emotion that they're experiencing. And that's really what sells it for me. So I just really love those kind of shows. So that'll be Sarah tomorrow night. I'm really looking forward to that. I was on her show a couple months ago, I guess now. Yeah, it's been a while, but we had a great talk, and she's about the nicest person in the world and just an incredible talent herself. So I'm really looking forward to having her on the hot seat now. So that'll be tomorrow night on tomorrow's Paranormal Portal. So definitely tune in. Same time, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Whatever that means to your time zone, you'll have to sort that out. But that's the one I know is where I am. Anyway, tonight we're going to get into UFO encounters. And this is a topic that I really have enjoyed diving into throughout the course of the show. It's not one that I knew a whole lot of before doing the show. I mean, I was passionate about the idea that there's UFOs and alien races visiting, but I love diving into the phenomena more and more and more and learning things. And tonight we've got a couple of great articles we're going to be covering. And then at the tail end of the show, we're going to be doing the trail cam terrors. And I've got a really interesting little video to show you. And I'll explain it when we get there. But at first blush, it probably wouldn't make any sense. But I'll set it up at that time and discuss what I think could be going on and what may be nothing at all. But it's pretty fascinating possibilities is all I'll say. So, all right, let's buckle up and get ready here because it's time for bed. All right, we're back and ready to go here. I see a new name, Kim Medina or Medina. How you doing? Welcome to the show. That's a new name to me. I don't remember ever seeing that before. So welcome, Kim. I hope you enjoy yourself. And Maggie M10, that's a new name to me as well. Sorry if you're not new and I'm just noticing it now, but you have to understand I don't have the opportunity very often to look at chats throughout the course of the show. I'm just scrolling up. Let's do some shout outs while we're at it. Let's do some shout outs and just see who is here. I'm looking at the participants. So if you're here and you're not chatting, then you probably won't show up, but Android Purity is here. I got to lean in because this font is so small. Circlec, Digger Dog, Drake is in here. Drake C, Elaine Clifford. Hi, Elaine. Hello, everybody. Ethan Seal, Ghost Magnet, Herman Vera. Hi, Herman. Good to see you. That's another new name to me. Isaac Areola, Kim Medina or Medina, Kirsten Leah, Lunatic Fringe, Maggie M10, Mom here, of course, and Rachel Gets It Right. Somebody else just popped in. Troy W. Welcome everybody. And I'm going to pop over to the actual chat. If I missed your name, just give me a wave or something so I see it, because the names change as I'm reading. The list bumps up and down. So I apologize, but good to see all of you guys. Thank you so much for coming in, and all of you who will be coming in eventually here. But let's get started here. We're going to talk about UFO encounters, and specifically I've got an abduction story to read to you, and then also a story that I think, oh, what the hell? Yeah, I can't. My oldest minion is calling. Should we take the call? Let's take the call. Hi, Shell. Oh, it's Shell. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, good. Hey, listen, I'm just live right now. Can I give you a call right after?
Oh yeah, sure. I just accidentally finger dialed you yesterday. I didn't,
Oh.
Fine. But yeah, it would be good to talk. It would be.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Have a good show. Okay.
All right, thanks. All right, I just glanced and saw my son, my oldest son's name is Sheldon, and I looked down and I saw Sheldon. I thought, no, that's my son, and then I answered it, and it was a name that's similar to that, but Yeah, you can see how my brain works. Never mind. Anyway, let's get to these stories. The first story tonight is going to be from howsandwhys.com. And it's literally HOWANDWHYS.com. And it's a great site that I found. I really enjoy it. They've got a lot of really interesting articles on here, and they claim to be staff articles, so I think that's awesome. But this is the bizarre case of contactee Enrique Castillo, physical contact with the Pleiadians. And I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right. I think it's Pleiadians, but it might be Pleiadians. I'm not sure how people pronounce it, but that's my version of it. All right, here's the story of Enrique Castillo. Rincon contains so detailed information about the contact with extraterrestrials that is considered to be the best documented case of the ufology from South America. The stories of strange incidents in Castillo's life began after he spotted the UFO over the Irazu volcano, Costa Rica, and later he met with intelligent beings from outer space and even boarded their spacecraft. Enrique Castillo, an electrical engineer, was born in 1931 in San Jose, Costa Rica. He spent most of his life in Costa Rica before moving to Colombia. His first encounter with the UFOs happened in June of 1963 while he was working for the power utility company in Costa Rica near the Irazu volcano. And it says, in his book, UFOs, A Great New Dawn for Humanity, he writes that he had seen 2 orange objects in the sky along with 2 colleagues. 3 of them felt uncomfortable sensations in their bodies during the incident. The UFOs were flying in a strange maneuver. Castillo added that one of the UFOs changed its color and the other emitted a purple light. After a few minutes, they disappeared into the sky at high speed. I think this must be translated. At first, the witnesses remained silent and did not tell anyone about their experience, but a few hours after they encountered the UFOs, all of them suffered health problems. They went to the hospital as it felt like they had been exposed to radiation. I would like to note here, first of all, it talks about him seeing this near the Irazu volcano. And there is some kind of correlation, ladies and gentlemen, between UFOs and volcanoes. And perhaps any naturally powerful event like that. But volcanoes, there's been many people that have recorded videos of what appear to be some undiscernible UFO type object flying into and coming out of volcanoes, flying around them. So there is that possibility that there is somehow there's some tie to the UFOs, whether they're utilizing that natural energy as a means to propel their craft and power whatever technologies they have, or if there's some other issue there. I don't know. And obviously nobody can know, but what an incredible coincidence that this started there too. All right, so it continues. Come on, stop that. A few months after the incident one night, Castillo heard strange noises in his head. The same which he had heard during his first UFO encounter. Interestingly, at that time, his wife Beatriz also heard them. He also founded a UFO group to learn more about the encounters. There's read also other articles that have to do with abduction. Sorry, didn't mean to pull up their bikini page or whatever that was. But for the next 5 years, no strange happenings occurred to Castillo until he moved to Brasilia, I think that's Brazil, in 1968 for work. He wrote that one day while driving from Sao Paulo to Brasilia, I guess Brasilia is a town, sorry, an orange ball of light was flying over his car for a long distance, and he felt intense vibrations in his car. There were radio problems and he even had problems with the steering. The serious odd events with Castillo began in 1969. He arrived in Caracas, Venezuela, to install telecommunication networks, and one afternoon he decided to watch a sci-fi film, Barbarella, in a theater in his free time. While he was in a queue to buy the ticket for the film, a stranger from Switzerland introduced himself as Cyril Weiss and asked Castillo if he could join him to watch the film together. Well, Castillo agreed, and after the film was over, both walked to Weiss's hotel. The Swiss man then invited Castillo to visit his hotel the next day. Which one is which? Enrique Castillo, a Spanish author, J.J. Benitez. Oh, okay. Both men talked about different things during their next meeting. After several meetings, Castillo started noticing a strangeness in Weiss's behavior. According to Castillo, being Swiss, he could speak Spanish without any accent. Besides, Weiss told him that he believed in the existence of extraterrestrials. And they live on Earth in some secret places, not inhabited by humans. After spending a lot of time with Weiss, he told Castillo that he would go abroad for a long time, but would meet him again. After a few years, Castillo settled in Bogota, Colombia. One day he received a call from Mexico where a woman named Karen requested him to meet her. Dayaini, one of Castillo's daughters, commented that the woman told her father that she was contacted by extraterrestrial beings. Even though Castillo thought it was some kind of joke, he decided to meet her. Karen told him that she had been contacted by the Pleiades, and they gave her information about the planet. She also said that they were looking for more people to contact them. One of them was Castillo, and later he would contact the people who guided him on how to contact the beings who would communicate telepathically. One day Castillo was at home and suddenly heard a disturbing noise in his head, as it was during his first encounter. According to Dayani, beings kept communicating with her father during his meditations and showed him the Pleiades, one of the star clusters closest to Earth, from where they belonged. What's more, they told him about upcoming physical contact that was set on Saturday, November 3rd, 1973. Before his meeting, he was given the place and time where he would have the first contact. He was told to go to a lake located north of Bogota and find a sphere covered by a stone near the roots of a tree. As he lifted the stone, 2 UFOs appeared, and he was taken into the spacecraft by 2 figures in gray uniforms. At first, Castillo resisted boarding the ship, but a voice in his head said not to worry. Yeah, those voices in your head, they might... Do you believe them? I don't know. In the ship, he again met Cyril Weiss, who disguised himself as a Swiss man before. Weiss, whose real name was Krishnamurk, okay, took him to a room where there were other beings similar to Nordic aliens. He was told by the Pleiadians that he had been on Earth for thousands of years before Christ, living on secret bases. They had been actively influencing our technological development and also mingled with humans. He remained in contact with the Pleiadians until January 1975. He even claimed to have visited their bases where he saw humans and the Pleiadians working together. They showed him a submarine base in the Mariana Trench, and he was also warned by their masters about future disasters. Castillo visited the United States and Germany, sharing his experiences and also helping other contactees. He was also taken to Washington, D.C. by the U.S. Embassy agents, where he was interrogated and even went under hypnotic regression. But it was willingly, as he wanted to prove his authenticity. Through his story, shared similar details, although his story shared similar details as other famous contactees like George Adamski, Howard Menger, and Daniel Fry, some researchers and experts found it hard to believe him. But on carefully examining his case, Castillo cannot be called a hoaxer. The ETs gave him a scientific, spiritual, prophetic, esoteric, and technological knowledge that includes reverse engineering operations and mind-guided spaceships. He died in 2013 at the age of 82 in Colombia. I guess 82 is a pretty good age, but what do you think? It's the hard part with things like this is I think many of us, and myself included, we kind of require something tangible. You know, we require something tangible that we can put our fingers on, like this is a rock. It's a rock that I got on my desk. But, this is tangible. I can look at it and examine it, and I can, make judgment calls. But it's hard to put ourselves in the place of somebody who has intangible proof. And I don't know his whole story. I've not, investigated anything more than what I'm reading here with you. But without, hey, he was able to produce a piece of material that they gave him to substantiate his claim or something, that could be tested. It could be weighed. It could be measured. It could be investigated. But the claims about people saying, well, I heard it in my head. I had a lot of these experiences in my head, but I did go to space. Well, it's hard to wrap our heads around. And I don't know. I mean, some people are willing to believe those things on face value, and I'm certainly not saying he's not telling the truth. He very well may be, but it does require a leap of faith for any one of us to go, yeah, well, I believe you. I think you're telling the truth, because but maybe his reverse engineering things that he might have shared or not shared or whatever could be the clues that were necessary. And who knows? But I think it's an interesting case. Just in reading it now, I think it's pretty. Again, what does a million years advancement from us look like? Well, it could be just like that. Like they can talk right in your head, make you receive signals from across the stars. I mean, that could be what a million years of advancement looks like. It may like in Thor the movie. When he's talking in the first movie, he's talking to Natalie Portman's character. He's like, well, I come from a place where science and magic our science is so advanced that magic and science are basically the same thing. And it's interesting to think about it that way, because if you took, like I've said this on the show before, but if you took our current modern day cell phones, even the flip phones, and went back to the 50s, you could have told people you were from Mars and they would have believed you, because you can produce this piece of technology and show them things that, we weren't capable at that time, that were not possible. So I think it's all in the eye of the beholder for a lot of these things. I keep an open mind. I don't want to judge somebody and just say, no, you're full of it. You must have hit your head as a baby or something. But, obviously those kind of reactions are out there. And that's tough because, again, it's a claim without any kind of verifiable evidence, and that's where it becomes hard. So the next one, I've got a couple more here. And we're at 22 after. We're doing good. Here's one, and some of this might be redundant, but this is also from howsandwise.com, and this is an article talking about 8 U.S. pilots reveal their secret UFO encounters. Well, I don't think all of these are the Tic Tac ones that have been media frenzied to death, including on this show. We've talked about them a number of times, but I think there's not much new to discover from those. But hopefully these will be some other ones. And these could be, hopefully these are like airline pilots, is what I'm hoping here. For many decades, sorry, this is again from House and Wise. Why does that happen? Oh, it's on the lifestyle tab. That's what's going on. All right. This is from Mariana Assyrians. Merriam Assyrians. May 31st, 2018. So it's a few years old, but well, let's check it out. For many decades, the content of the document remains secret, and former pilots have retired and do not keep official secrets anymore. New facts of their contacts with UFOs during their stay in the ranks of the military or civil aviation open up. And here's 8 U.S. pilots reveal their secret UFO encounters. Very cool. First meeting. In the evening of June 29th, 1954, James Howard, the commander of the airliner of the British airline BOAC, was heading to London from New York. Approximately 30 minutes after the takeoff, Howard received a signal from the New York Air Traffic Control Center to direct the aircraft to the coast of Rhode Island and stay in the area until further instructions. After I don't know what that means, after 12 minutes, Howard informed the center that he only had fuel for the specified route and asked for permission to continue the flight, and he was allowed on condition that he would make a hook and fly over the Cape Cod Bay in the north of the state. 3 hours later, when the plane was at an altitude of 7,000 meters above the St. Lawrence River, the Canadian province of Quebec, several UFOs appeared in the sky, and they remained within the line of sight for about 20 minutes. Later, Howard described them in his report. They flew at about the same speed as we, about 400 kilometers an hour, in a parallel course, being about 3 miles northwest of the U.S. These objects were observed by all the crew members of the aircraft, and the navigator determined the parameters of their movement. Howard immediately reported to the control center about his observations. They confirmed the receipt of the message and suggested that in the future, they should report on all abnormal events and situations during their flight. However, after another 2 hours, Howard unexpectedly received an order to make an unplanned landing in the Canadian town of Goose Bay on the western tip of the Labrador Peninsula. Immediately after landing the plane, Howard and all of his crew were interviewed by the staff at the U.S. Air Force Intelligence Department. It seemed that they were not surprised by what they heard. Later, he learned that at the time when his plane was circling over Rhode Island, the Air Force reconnaissance had already been following a group of UFOs flying northeast, and discovered earlier over the state of Massachusetts. A visiting doctor and his wife, who were there on vacation, reported about them at one of the police stations. Yikes. All right, the second meeting. On June 4th, 1955, the crew of the RB-47 Boeing, a medium-range reconnaissance aircraft flying over the Viscount Melville Channel off the northern coast of Canada, installed radar and then visual contact with a UFO. It was silvery gray color device about 5,000 meters away from the plane, and the pilots were watching it for 9 minutes. Subsequently, the journalists noticed that during the entire period of observation, the UFO was also photographed using a high-speed movie camera, but the Air Force's security personnel said the quality of the footage was very low, and therefore it was impossible to extract useful information from it. On June 7th, the Air Force Command sent the second reconnaissance aircraft to the same area, only equipped with the latest radio, photo, and cinematographic equipment, as well as the most modern radar. On the same day, this aircraft from Eielson Air Force Base in Alaska entered the radar contact of UFO 3 times over the Banks Island near northeastern coast of Canada. But the Air Force did not report any details about this episode. Well, perhaps we'll see some in the upcoming report that's scheduled to be released to Congress. But who knows? The impending disclosure. Maybe some of that stuff will come out. The third meeting. On April 8th, 1956, the commander of a civil airliner, Raymond Rayan, R-A-Y-Y-A-N, and co-pilot William Nall suddenly saw a flying UFO in front of them with dazzling bright white lights. Rayan directed the plane abruptly upward, while the UFO suddenly lit up in orange, made a turn at 90 degrees to the right, and pushed past them at their very nose at a speed of at least 1,500 kilometers per hour. Fearing new tricks from the UFOs, the commander reported the incident to the nearby U.S. Air Force Base, Griffiths. In response, Rayan was told that they found an orange glow of unknown origin at an altitude of 2,500 meters and already sent 2 interceptors there. And he was offered to turn the landing lights off, change course, and follow the area of the current location of the UFO. Rayan obeyed the order, but his liner failed to approach the UFO, which was much superior in speed, maneuverability, and even to interceptors, and soon disappeared from sight near Lake Ontario. Rayan returned the liner to the previous course, and soon safely landed at the airport of the city of Syracuse. Wow. Yeah, I mean, the blinding speed stuff doesn't surprise me. That's they're way ahead of us for sure. Well, that's a pretty picture. Wonder what that is. On February 19th, 1956, at 22:50, a mark suddenly appeared on the radar screens of the Paris airport. Only Orly that's the name of the airport. Sorry. I'm sorry. Orly. Airport Orly. Gotcha. It could correspond to the reflected signal for any known type of aircraft, then tracked by radars, and judging by the mark, a giant UFO within the next 4 hours, as if demonstrating its capabilities, maneuvered in the sky, developing fantastic speeds and making incredibly steep turns. So being at some point, I'm sorry about the way this is written, but it's again, obviously not written in normal English, so it's a little tricky to read. So being at some point in time over the city of Gomez-la-Châtel, the object moved 30 kilometers to the side in 30 seconds. To do it, the craft had to develop a speed of 3,600 kilometers per hour. At that time, over the military base Les Mureaux, about 40 kilometers from Orly, at an altitude of 1,400 meters, a DC-3 Dakota transport aircraft flew by. The dispatcher informed the Dakota commander that an unidentified object was in the air, 250 meters below his plane. The Dakota radio operator saw a UFO through the cabin window and reported that the object is huge and glows red. Later, the commander of the De Sava plane sent a report to the French Ministry of Aviation as follows. We had been watching UFOs for 30 seconds, but could not accurately determine either its shape or dimensions during the flight. These parameters are difficult to evaluate. However, we are all sure in one thing. It was not a civilian aircraft. It did not have navigational lights, which according to international laws should be on any such aircraft. And then Orly warned me that the UFO was approaching to our left, and I turned the plane towards it. But in a few seconds, Orly reported that the facility turned around and headed north toward Le Bourget airports, and in 10 minutes, the dispatcher reported that the UFO was already several kilometers above us, but we could not see it anymore. Huh. I wonder what they learned from us. I mean, you got to wonder, what are they doing? That's my big takeaway of this. It's like, what are they doing? And I don't think it probably has a whole lot to do with us. I think they might be doing something else. Like, perhaps they're cataloging maybe something in the Earth's crust, or maybe they're doing some other kind of research just in areas. Because it's interesting that, these things do tend to navigate around. Like, they don't just stay in one area. They tend to go around, and it must be like surveys of some kind is all I can figure. But it is curious. All right, here's the fifth story. It says fifth meeting, but in the morning of September 4th, 1957, the link in the first formation of the 4 F-84 jets, fighters from the Portuguese Air Force under the command of Captain Lemo Ferreira, flew from the airbase of Ota for a training flight. That day, the weather was cloudy and there was a full moon, and the visibility was over 70 kilometers. In his report, Captain Ferreira stated in detail about the following events. When at 20:06, we reached Granada, and started to turn right and take a course on Portalegre. I saw an unusual source of light above the horizon to my left. I decided to inform other pilots about it, and we began discussing what we saw on the radar. But we could not understand what the observed object was. It looked like an unusually large and very bright sparkling star. In the center there was a nucleus, the color of which was changing all the time from green to blue, while taking reddish, sometimes yellowish hue. Suddenly the object began to grow rapidly and became 6 times larger than it was a few seconds ago. Then after a few seconds it began to decrease as quickly and soon turned into a dull yellowish star, barely visible over the mountain. Such extensions and compression were repeated several times, and after each change of magnitude, the object remained in its new form for a few seconds. All the while, the position of the UFO relative to our course remained unchanged. approximately at an angle of 40 degrees on the port side, so we could not determine what caused the changes in size of the objects staying at the same distance from us. The mentioned transformations were repeating within 8 minutes. After that, it began descending to the horizon line and simultaneously moved, eventually taking a new position relative to our course at an angle of 90 degrees on the port side. At 20:38, I decided to land, gave the command to make a left turn and take a course on Kurush, remaining at the same height of 7,500 meters. We turned almost 50 degrees, but the UFO was again on the left at an angle of 90 degrees, however, much lower than us, but it became much closer. All this could happen only if it also made the appropriate maneuver. Now, the UFO was bright red and shaped like a curved bean pod. A few minutes later, we saw a small circle of yellow lights near the pod, and soon 3 more such lights appeared next to him. They moved quickly. Their mutual position was changing all the time. We still could not determine the distance to these objects, although they realized that they were close enough and located below us, but it was obvious that the big object was 10 to 15 times brighter than the yellow circles that were than they were, okay, and that it somehow managed them. As we approached Karush, the UFO suddenly fell down and then rushed headlong upwards towards us. In the view of the unexpected danger of collision, each pilot independently performed the evasion maneuver. The aircraft lost its control for a while. After a few seconds, they made the aircraft balanced, and when they looked around, they had discovered that the UFO had disappeared. Later, the flight proceeded normally, and we landed safely at our base. We had been watching the UFOs for 40-odd minutes, but did not understand what it was. Nevertheless, we are all sure that it was not a balloon, an airplane, a planet Venus, or some other object from among those that appear in absurd attempts to explain the UFO phenomena with the help of ordinary concepts. Oh, I know. That's the part that really, I find it absolutely maddening, because if you read reports and then debunks the people that try to debunk them, the explanations are more bizarre and way out there than the actual phenomena in my mind. It's like, how do you get all of those elements working in perfect concert to make this illusion or this misunderstanding happen? I mean, how is that possible? And so again, the explanations are just way out there. I don't know, but let's continue. We're making progress here. I should say that the phone lines are open too. If anybody feels the need to call in, that is always an option here in the portal. And the number is 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500, or it's above my head under the words Paranormal Portal on your screen. So let's go to the 6th one. And then there's 2 more to go. How are we doing on the time? This might be, oh no, we're doing good. Okay. This is the 6th story. On November 15th, 1960, the crew of the reconnaissance aircraft RB-57 of the U.S. Air Force Base, departing from the airbase in East Sale, Australia, noticed, I hope I'm saying that right, East Sale. Yeah, I mean, it looks like Sale. Noticed a UFO in the air 50 kilometers from the Tasmania Island. On this occasion, the commander of the aircraft sent the leadership of the intelligence service of the Australian Air Force the following report. At about 10:40 local time, when we were 25 kilometers from Launceston, okay, my navigator detected an aircraft approaching us from the port side. Our altitude was 12,000 meters, speed of 600 kilometers per hour, course 340 degrees, I think. I also saw an object approaching at a very high speed, and the navigator showed that it was not an airplane and that it looked more like a balloon. It reached at an altitude of about 10,000 meters, heading 140. Based on my experience, I determined that the speed of the object exceeded 1,400 kilometers per hour. I was watching this UFO for about 6 seconds until it disappeared beneath my left wing, and since the UFO looked very unusual, I immediately laid the left turn to continue watching it, but it had already disappeared. The diameter of the UFO was about 25 meters. That's plenty big. Outwardly, it looked like a semi-transparent ball of indeterminate color, but it had no protruding parts. Its outlines seemed blurry. That's an interesting thing. I wonder if that's like the field that keeps them aloft. Like, I don't know. Are they in some kind of a field, some kind of energy bubble, for lack of a better term? And that's what creates the distortions, makes them look fuzzy. Is it a bubble of some kind or what? I don't know. I can't help but think these things. Obviously, I'm not going to solve it here on the show, but this is the stuff that goes through my mind. It's like, what are these things? What are they doing? The seventh one is very short, obviously. On April 30th, 1962, the test pilot of NASA, Joseph Walker, blew up an experimental X-15 aircraft again, which was, again, does he have a history of this or what? What does that mean? He blew up an X-15 again. That dang guy. which was tested at the U.S. Air Force Edward in California. This supersonic aircraft with a liquid rocket engine had fantastic flight characteristics for those times. When the X-15 reached a height of 60,000 meters and a speed of 5,000 kilometers per hour, the pilot reported on the radio to the ground 2 light silvery disc-like UFOs had just passed over him, easily overtaking him. On May 11th, 1962, in Seattle, Washington, at the Second National Conference on the Peaceful Uses of Space Research, Walker reported that among the tasks assigned to him by his superiors was also the search and recognition of UFOs. Oh, that's interesting, because that certainly would never appear outside of those groups. They would never openly admit that, so that's really interesting. He was actually tasked as part of his duties to keep an eye out for these things. So there's no doubt that there's been an official interest in this stuff forever. Like, oh, Project Blue Book ended and we're not really tracking that stuff anymore. Yeah, you are. You're just doing it under a new label, and it's always a new title. It's like when you watch the Bourne Identity, Supremacy, whatever, at the end of like the Bourne Identity or whatever the first one was. That guy is sitting in front of Congress talking about, yeah, well, we've closed Treadstone, but we got this Black Briar program, and we think this really has wheels. Get some traction out of this. And so basically it's just the same concept, but they just bubble it in a different title. So they can actively and honestly say, look, we closed that program down. We don't like it. You don't know about the other one, but we don't do that one anymore. That's not good. Meanwhile, they're continuing their work in a whole new title. So it's kind of like an episode of the Paranormal Portal. I give them new titles all the time. Same show. No, I'm just kidding. I hope not every show is the same show. That's just me being cheeky. But anyway, that's very interesting. They are watching. They are paying attention, folks. Not only aliens, but the governments, I'm sure. Because, at the end of the day, we stand to learn a lot from these things if we can get our hands on them, which is also scary, considering the state of things. I honestly, I don't think we're ready for it. We're not ready to have that kind of abilities. We're not ready for that kind of power. It's sad. It's actually tragic because there's, good people in the world all over. But there's also a bunch of bastards out there. All right, so let's go on to the last one on this article. And this is the 8th one. On February 17th, 1954, the leaders of all U.S. civilian airlines were invited to a conference in Los Angeles where intelligence officers from the Military Transport Aviation Administration, so that's MTAA, introduced the document codenamed JANAP 146. The document was the instruction of the Joint Information Services of the Army, Navy, and Air Force, which forbade all crew members from civil aircraft to tell about their UFO sightings, not only to representatives of the mass media, but also to relatives and friends. For pilots who violated the instruction and told someone about their secret UFO encounters, a very severe punishment was established: imprisonment for up to 10 years or a fine of up to $10,000. Wow. That's pretty sketchy, huh? So they were muzzling people. It's no wonder that the official word on this stuff was, oh, it's nothing. It's swamp gas. It's a weather balloon. It's not a UFO. It's something else. It was a meteorological event. It was ball lightning, of course, because they don't want people to know, which is really tragic, because I don't think it harms anything to know that there's life elsewhere in the universe. In fact, I think it's wonderful. And you think about the possibilities of that life and how it could benefit all of us. You know, what could they bring if we would had a spirit of cooperation and trust? What could that be brought? What could be brought to the table regarding medical advances and cleaner living and free power? You know, things like that. That's everybody could benefit from. I mean, could you imagine not having utility payments? I don't know. That to me would be amazing, but they want to keep it locked down, I guess, because if it's secret and they can figure things out, then it becomes powerful. But things are only powerful when one person has it and another person doesn't. And I think that that's kind of the spirit in which these things are being pursued, is obviously militarily and for global positioning more than anything, which is unfortunate. It's truly, absolutely tragic, but I don't know. I'd love to see what you guys are saying or anything in the chat about this. I agree. Too much division for humans to have that kind of power. Yeah, I thank you, Android. I appreciate that. Hey, Hell House Paranormal's in the house. Good to see you. Great to see you. Thanks for coming in. I'm just looking at any comments I'm going to miss. Do you believe, Android says, do you believe the aliens are friendly, hostile, or think it depends on the species? Well, here's the thing. It's obviously purely speculative, but I think that some of them could be very friendly. Like if there's different races, which is many people believe there's different types of aliens visiting us from different, cosmic locations. So I think there's the ones that maybe have been a part of our journey the whole way. Like they've been probably, as that one story from the contactee implied, that they were kind of helping and steering us in a way. So I think those are benevolent and wonderful. But I think there's another type, and I don't know if it's really malicious, but it's kind of gets back to, how do they regard us? Do they regard us as truly intelligent? And by intelligence, we have, an IQ range. Let's say we have an IQ range, and our IQ range is anywhere from, 80 to 120 average, whatever that means. Now, what if you were from a species that had an IQ range of like 500 or better? Like you were so far advanced, how would you look at that? And are we so far below? Perhaps the IQs are much, much higher of these extraterrestrials. They're just so much more intelligent and able to do so much more mentally than we are. So would we be regarded with inequality? And the possibilities, maybe not. Maybe we're nothing. Maybe we're kind of we are kind of regarded much like we regard the squirrels outside, with, oh, there they are. Yep. Look at them get that nut. Okay. Oh, let me rephrase that. Look at it climb that tree. Sorry. However you want to look at it. And I think for them, it's almost an